and welcome to today's episode of the Radiant Soul Podcast. Apologies for the lateness of this. It's a few hours late, but I recorded one yesterday and forgot to plug in this new mic. So I decided to restart. And also, I really believe in divine inspiration, divine timing, divine meddling that really allows the greatest expression of yourself to come through. And that's what I want to talk about today. And it isn't what I talked about yesterday, so that's fun. But what I want to talk about today is that you are not a fixed being. You are not a fixed identity. And I think it's very easy for us to really take on an identity and believe that that is who we are, to believe that that is all we are. And that, and you'll hear people say, I'm not a morning person, or I'm not a night person, or I'm, I like things black and white or whatever. And we take on these identities and we really become quite fixed and rigid. And it's not true, right? That's the big joke. It's not true. Like, you have permission to completely free yourself of your identity. You have permission to completely free yourself of the stories that create that identity. For a long time, I was running this script, like my whole life really, of that I didn't belong here. Like, it was like so ingrained in my psyche, in my subconscious, of this belief that I didn't actually belong here on this planet. Like, I wasn't meant to be here. I wasn't wanted. And this has been like sort of running in the background of my entire life without me even being aware of it. And it showed up in how I've showed up, which is like, I've hidden, or I've felt apologetic, or I've had to justify why I'm here. And like, the freedom in understanding that that's actually not a truth, the freedom in understanding that there doesn't need to be this attachment to that, and that, like, I can completely not have that belief. And I think that this is the thing, is that we think that we have to, work hard on our beliefs, or if we have a certain belief that runs a story, we then have to believe the opposite, like, that's exactly what affirmations do. It's like, I am rich, I am wealthy, I am healthy. And that just continues the double-edged sword, right? It's like this, it's two sides of the same coin. So if I don't believe, like, I belong here, and then I choose to believe I belong, like, all I'm doing is creating a paradigm where I have to prove that I belong or I don't belong, and it's like I'm continually flipping between these two sides of the same coin. Like, I belong, I deserve to be here. Like, look at me, notice me, I deserve to be here, versus I don't belong, I don't deserve to be here. Don't look at me, I'm sorry, I exist. And we do this. And, I'll use the example with health as well. I am healthy, I am strong, or I am wealthy, I am rich. And yet on the other side is like, I am not, I am poor. And if you actually had that sort of, whatever it is you think, like, if you just actually belonged, you wouldn't need the affirmation, I belong, because it wouldn't even come into your conscious awareness that you belong. Like, you would just exist, you would just be. And there's a freedom in that. There's a freedom in allowing yourself to be who you are, and not feeling like you have to justify this existence in who you are, an existence in this identity or in this belief, or the insistence in twisting the belief or changing the belief or turning the belief around and not believing it or believing the opposite. But if you didn't have that belief in the first place, you would never need to believe the opposite, because it would just be so inherently in who you are. Like, you just wouldn't even question it. And the invitation here is to really, what are the stories you're telling yourself? What are the identities that you believe yourself to be? And instead of just trying to, like, flip that script, instead of trying to just, reinvent yourself as the opposite of that, like, imagine what it would be like if you just let it completely go. If you just completely freed yourself of that belief or that identity. It's like, who is, and you can do this by looking at your life, like looking at how you show up, how you, especially if you have an area that your problem, you have problems with, and you struggle in, start looking at that situation as an observer of yourself, as an outside view, almost like put yourself, on a stage or whatever, like, or on a TV screen, and watch yourself in that position. And then ask yourself, like, who is the kind of person that would do this? Who is the kind of, like, what would the kind of person that does this believe about themselves? Who is this person? And then letting that sink in, of like, that you have been carrying this identity around with you, like, probably for forever. This identity, and for me, it was a real tough one. It was like, I don't deserve to exist. I shouldn't exist. I shouldn't be here. And then when you just actually imagine for a moment, like, what would it be like if that didn't even exist? If that had never, ever even crossed your mind, that, like, for me, the idea that it had never crossed my mind about my existence. There's absolute freedom in that. There's absolute freedom. Like, I get to be who I want to be. And this is a really powerful practice that you can do, and you can go really deep with it. And I suggest you do, and you journal it and really uncover it. And I can help people with that if they want to. And it's like, you don't actually have to be this person that you think you are. You don't have to actually keep running this narrative. And if you think that you're like running the opposite narrative, if you think you're like, well, no, I've proved I'm worthy, I've proved I'm wealthy, I've proved this, and I use these mantras every day, like, I am wealthy, I'm capable, I'm strong, like, you're still in that paradigm of like the double-edged coin knife. I don't know, I'm getting all of my things mixed up here, but like, it's, you're still on the two sides of the same coin. And letting that go completely, that's freedom. And also, there's just freedom in letting go of any identities. Like, the identity is pure ego. And that's the beauty of life, right? Is you get to be who you want to be. And what happens is, we want to evolve. We want our soul to evolve. And what comes from desires, what comes from life experience, all those frictions, those places where we don't feel good, is because something is wanting to come through us that we are not allowing. And the biggest way we don't allow it is by believing we're not that person, or believing that we, this is who I am, I'm never going to change, I'm not like that, or whatever. Like, it's when you do that, you lock yourself down and you close yourself and sort of pull yourself back into the smallest corner and the smallest, like, little space. But life wants to emerge through you. Life and all your desires, like, they are to bring forth what you are here to explore, to develop, to discover, to evolve, to become more of. Like, nothing comes from without, like, nothing comes from without towards us. Like, we are the generators of life. We are the vessel that life comes through. And if we close that off because we decide that we have an identity that sort of stops us doing that, you become fixed. You become, you start to close everything down. And that's like the degenerative process, like, that's the march towards death, because the opposite of life, which is growth and expansion and more and emergence, the opposite of that is coming in, is pulling back. It's death. It's not living. And many people walk around in a sleep of not living, really. And, this is who I am, this is what I do. And there's no openness there. And so it's like, asking yourself, like, can you find those stories within you, those identities, like, who do you think you are? Like, I am this person. And just watch those places that show up. I'm trying to think of some examples. I was always the emotional artistic one at home, and it's like I could have took that on as an identity. And I think for years, like growing up, I kind of did, but didn't. Like, it kind of sat on me, and it felt like this sort of thing that had been put on me, but it never felt like my truth, right? Because to me, it's like I've always known that I am a spirit soul. I don't know. It's been a really inherent part of, like, just who I am, I suppose, as an identity, right? And yet I've also had to lose those identities of I am an artist, or I am this, or I am emotional, and be like, well, I'm just human, and I'm allowed to be anything I want to be, and I can create and be and express and explore and bring forth any aspect of that. Because if we're all one, then we are all everything. And all is one. Like, all is you. So you are allowed to be anything, because you don't have to be fixed. Like, you are all that is. And closing yourself off with a, well, I'm not like that, or I'm like this statement, you are completely shutting down possibilities for yourself, and then wondering why, you don't have a flow of abundance or whatever it is you want. Like, when we shut down those places, we are shutting down our source, our flow. And that's really detrimental to life, right? Life isn't interested in that, because if there's nowhere for life to grow and expand and become, then it's going to go find something else. And so it will almost like pass you by. And you can see this. You can see this when you walk around. Like, I mean, I like walking around shopping malls in suburbia. I'm sure most of these people have moments of waking, but you can see the sort of the deadness within people, the asleep. They don't call it awakening for nothing. And it's not about suddenly being, having a spiritual experience of God and being all like spiritual and holy and connected, but it is about being alive and having that sparkle that, when you see someone and meet someone who has that, like, that's because they are allowing life to move through them. They are allowing life to emerge through them. They are not closed off. They are allowing themselves to greet each day as a completely fresh start, as a new day. Like, I mean, our bodies literally regrow themselves continually. Like, you can have a disorder, but you can regrow, and you don't have to regrow the same disorder. But no, there's so few of us that have that level of control and that level of commitment to a different story, to a different timeline. And that's where vibrational frequency comes in. That's where really, fine tuning those thoughts that you have that you think are correct or that are right. Like, they are not. That you have infinite possibilities. You are all that is. And so you can be open to all that is, and you can be open to literally allowing your body to regenerate, allowing your body to become something different. But it comes from energy first. It comes from a willingness to understand and feel what that feels like. What would it feel like? How would that person be? Who is the person that has this thing? Like, if it's well-being, what kind of person is super well and healthy and vibrant and full of vitality? Can I show up as that today? And if that's completely in the like not who you normally are, that you don't have to stay as who you are. You can try something new. You can be something different. You don't have to be fixed. And this is your permission slip to no longer be fixed. This is your permission slip to be who you want to be. And that may change every single day. It may change every minute. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, it's more of life emerging through you. It's more of life flowing through you. And then you become this like beautiful vessel for life. And you become very fluid with life. You don't need to have this rigidity and this closed state. And life gets in then. And that's when you start noticing. That's when you start having those moments where you become, you know, when you really feel the unity with life, when you really feel like, you know, the trees are communicating with you, or, you know, or you're getting signs from the universe. It's like, because you're open to seeing how things are. You're open to seeing things differently, and you're open to being different. And this is the power that you have. And you've been told all your life that you have no power. You've been literally programmed to believe that you are as you are, and it's going to be a hard slog to be here. And those people are lucky. They've got something you don't have. It's not true. You have everything, because you are all there is. And if there's only one, like, you either believe in that or you don't. And to believe in it, then you have to live it, right? You have to believe that you are all there is, and that you can be, and that you don't have to be this fixed being that's got, you know, can only grow this much and can only be like this sort of way because this is who you are. It's not true. Like, you can release that identity, like free yourself now. Permission slip to free yourself from what you believe about yourself. Because you are so much more than you ever would know. You are so much more vast and magnificent and magical and immense in every way. Like, you are the stuff that creates worlds, multiverses. And you know, my favorite quote is from the original Aladdin cartoon, and he's like, infinite cosmic power, and then space. Like, that is you. That is me. That is us. We are everything, and all of us, and we are in these little tiny vessels. But we are like portals, like these vessels, our bodies. This is like a portal to all. So just allowing that expansion, and maybe it's a slow process. Maybe it's just a playing with it, feeling into that. Maybe just take one thing. Oh, you know, I'm a morning person. Well, maybe I'm not. Wonder what a night person is like. You know, just trying it out and seeing. And we are allowed preferences. You know, we come here to be unique, right? So we will have our own preferences, but they don't have to become identities. They don't have to become fixed. They don't have to become something that cages us in who that is. So I hope that makes sense. If you want to come see me live, I am on Insight Timer. It's a little meditation app on your phone, and I'm live every Wednesday at 11:11 with a sort of an extended Soul Shots episode. It's like 5 to 15 minutes long, and I'll generally be going over like the Soul Shots that are in the podcast, but I will be expanding them a little more, or riffing and seeing what comes through. I will be an open channel during these things. So come join me on Insight Timer. And also there's meditations on there too that you can do. And you can donate. There's courses. I will be putting courses up there. It's a beautiful, beautiful app. It's not noisy. It's not social media. It's for peace of mind and calmness. It's a beautiful place to be. If you've listened on the podcast, you can also come to my website and see the YouTube videos as well of these podcasts, so you can actually see my face and how much I move my hands and arms around. And sometimes my cat comes and sticks her butt in the camera. Sometimes she doesn't. Today she has left us alone. Thank you ever so much for listening. I love you. I love everything and all that you are, and every part and expression of that. Do not be fixed, be open. I love you. Have a great day. Bye.
To find out more about how to work with me, then visit soulartbyshirley.com for art, commissions and courses. And if you love this podcast, please hit subscribe and leave a review. And if you take a screenshot of your review and email it to soulartbyshirley@gmail.com, I'll send you a radiant soul hypnosis as a thank you gift. Thank you for listening. I love you. Bye.